Hello, 49er faithful. Been having trouble connecting with the Fogies today, so we've got some special guests. We have with us Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniel over here. And on this side, we have Richard Hightower and DeMeco Ryans. So we're going to have a good old time. Now, due to contract issues, they can't say anything on the air. So what they'll do is they'll text me some messages, and then as I ask the questions, they'll text me the answers, and I'll repeat them to you. Oh, wait a minute, what's that? Is that a phone? Oh, the Fogies are here. Okay, well, we'll see you later, Kyle, Mike, DeMeco, and Richard. Maybe next time. Well, you know, I'm glad you called, because I had to let the other guys go that I had on the line that I was working with. You know, it was Richard Hightower, DeMeco Ryans, Kyle Shanahan, and Mike McDaniel were here, and we were going to work something out. But I'm glad you called, because I let them go so you could come in and join us.
Well, thanks. I'm truly honored, Gary. But you know, I do know more about football than those guys. So, yeah, it was a good choice on your part.
So, how's your week been?
My week has been pretty good. Sorry about my schedule last night. I know it's off subject, but you know, it's Pacific Northwest, so I have to rub it in people's face. You know, I had to watch Steph Curry at Madison Square Garden become the all-time greatest shooter in the history of the NBA. So when he didn't make it Monday night, I said, well, nope, I got to watch this one. I've watched it every year, every game for 8 years. So had to see that one. So sorry about that. There was my little Barb.
Well, I watched the rest of the game in the car on the way home on my phone.
Oh, did you?
Yes, I did.
So you saw this the end of this game, huh? Then
yeah, I got a few 49er Fogies shorts in the workings too off of this.
Oh, very good.
So
good
anyway, let's get right down to the game. It's been a
good
week because of the game.
It was a good week. It's always easier when you come off a win, right? And
yeah.
And this was a barn burner. You know, when everybody was waiting for that call, you could have heard a pin drop in Heathen, where the 49er Empire of Vancouver meet. And then, of course, as soon as they said it was a touchdown, and we all knew it was a touchdown. They showed the play over and over again. And
well, the announcers knew it was a touchdown.
Yeah. So I mean, it was just waiting for those guys to stick their arms up. You never know what's going to happen when it gets to that point, right? But they did, and it was a crazy moment and a lot of fun and a real satisfying win. It was nice for us to be able to see us only give up a field goal and then go down and get in the end zone. That was.
Well, did you see George walk over and talk to the official during that period of time?
I did not.
Well, George went over and talked to the official, and the official said, "There's no way it was a touchdown."
Oh, really?
But New York decided different.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that, because I thought that that Secaucus, New York, and the guys on the field were both looking at the plays together and making that decision. But ultimately, it is New York's decision to make the call.
So on to your players of the game.
On to my players of the game. Well, it's interesting. You know, there's a couple that stand out. Obviously, George Kittle is the offensive player of the game. With Trent Williams right behind him, because that guy had an incredible game. But Kittle, I mean, 13 receptions, 151 yards, and a touchdown, and that critical first down on 3rd and 5 deep in our own territory in that last overtime drive. I mean, that was a huge catch, and it was a really hard catch. It almost looked like the Clark catch.
I was gonna say that. Did you see the catch reenactment?
Yeah. It
There was two of those by George.
Yeah. He really climbed the ladder to get a couple of those. And Jimmy had to throw them high. He had no choice.
Yep.
So that conversion, man, that was a significant part of the whole game, because that allowed them to drive it all the way down, and then Ayuk scores on a 12-yard touchdown pass, and hey, we're home winners, right? So it's pretty good. Pretty good performance all the way around. I think I mentioned to you last week that I thought this kid Burrow was a pretty good quarterback, and he had a really good day, except he threw 2 interceptions, and that killed him. But if you look at him, I mean, he only had 9 incompletions. He went 25 for 34. That's a really high percentage for 348 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he had a passing rating of over 120. And Jimmy had a nice, solid game. He was kind of a field general out there, which is fine. Game manager works. And his QBR was like 70 or something like that. But we won.
That's right.
Who cares?
The W is what counts.
That's right. And if you looked at some of the stats, you wouldn't think so, except for Cincinnati had 2 turnovers and we had none, and that was big. But total yards, they had 397 to our 355, so they did have more total yards and about a minute more time of possession. But the time of possession, I think that's a problem, Gary, and see if this doesn't sound right to you. I think there's a trend that we've seen in the last, sprinkled in throughout the season, where in the fourth quarter we just give the game away, and we did that in this quarter, in this game too. We had the ball. They had the ball for 10 and a half minutes in the fourth quarter, and they scored 2 touchdowns. And so we had it 4.5 minutes and didn't do anything. 3 and out. So I'm concerned because we had that game locked up, and then they came back in the fourth. Now they're an NFL team too, and they want to win and they play hard. But this, I kind of see this as a trend, and I'd like to see us.
Well, there was a reason for that in this game. We had the rookie corners in, and we were covering them early in the game with the safeties, and they came out with a plan to take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why they did so much better in the second half. We couldn't cover the corners with our safeties because of what they were doing. We were just the way it is.
Yeah, it was. Those were some pretty good. I mean, one drive was like a minute and a half, right? They just went boom, boom, and got in. But the other drive took almost 9 minutes, and it was a long drive, and they just went, 4 yards, 6 yards, 3 yards, 7 yards, all the way down the field.
The middle was open because the safeties were playing wide to cover the corners.
You're right. The middle was absolutely wide open, and we kept getting hit right down the middle on slant patterns. Guys coming out of the slot, they were wide open, 6 yards downfield. And if you do that enough times, I think there was 12, 13 plays in that drive. It was a long. In the fourth quarter, eating up that much time and tying the game. Boy, that at home. I mean, that was pretty good coaching and pretty good field management by Burrow as well. So what do you think about the fourth quarters in general, Gary? Do you think there's a trend there, or is it just every game is its own?
Well, I think that you can only use your scheme for so long before they find out where the holes are in it.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening.
Yeah.
That's why we got to run with the gun as long as it's in our hand.
Right. Right. Well,
And of course, we made some changes to our defensive scheme too, which slowed them down.
it did. It stopped Joe Mixon. I was surprised he only had 15 carries for 58 yards. That guy's been on a tear.
Yeah.
So we shut him completely down because
While we're talking our defense, who are your defensive players of the game?
well, I love Aziz. He's my guy. He's hurt. Now he came out in the fourth quarter of that game, and he's day to day right now. But he had a great game again. He had 11, 12 tackles, and was getting in the backfield and dropping running backs for a loss, and just playing really, really well out there. But Bosa was the defensive player in the game. He was the reason they only scored a field goal in overtime. He was almost single-handedly the reason.
Yeah.
And that was just Burrow. That was the quarterback at Ohio State when he played there. So those guys know each other really well.
Well, Burrow's had the Bosas back-to-back, didn't he?
He did. I'll be darned. Didn't even think about that. Yes, he did. Ooh, ouch. That's a pretty tough 2 weeks there. And Bosa got him twice this weekend, right? So we had pressure on him, but man, that kid's good. I really like him. I think the Bengals are a team that's just a few players away from being a pretty good team, but in the division that they're in, with the record that they have, they're certainly in playoff contention. So it was a good win to go into a team's house like that, and get the win.
Well, my players of the game are a little different than usual.
Okay.
The player of the game is special teams and Richard Hightower.
Okay. That's a great choice. Our special teams had a really nice day, with the exception of Robbie Gould, and we can talk about that after this.
But basically, it's our special teams defensive part of it.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and then our defensive player of the game is DeMeco Ryans, Bosa, and Ebukam.
Oh, okay.
The whole line, backers and safeties. You realize there's one part missing on that.
What's that?
Cornerbacks.
Oh, quarterbacks. Yeah.
Okay. And my offense, of course, is Jimmy and George, a good duo.
Yep.
The O-line, Kyle Shanahan and his plan, and Mike McDaniel, wide receivers and running backs.
Oh, you took the whole offense.
Just about, yeah.
And the coaches, and we in that first half of that game, we were scoring at will. I was going, wow, this is going to be.
Well, Nick Bosa had 9 quarterback pressures, 2 sacks, and 9 hurries.
Yeah.
Ebukam had 4 quarterback pressures, a half a sack, 1 hit, 2 hurries, and a forced fumble. Okay, Charles Omenihu.
A forced fumble. Mm-hmm. Okay.
He had 2 quarterback pressures. He also recorded a batted pass in the first half.
Okay.
Now on to offense here. George Kittle, he caught 13 of his 15 targets for 151 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
4 of those were over 15 yards.
Yep. And of course, we talked about that. 35.
And Jimmy Garoppolo, under pressure, 8 of 12 passing for 86 yards and 1 touchdown for a 115.3 quarterback rating. Clean pocket, 19 of 29 completions for 210 yards, 1 touchdown, and a 98.3 passer rating. Fourth quarter and overtime, he threw for 159 yards and a TD and made 3 big-time throws. Average depth of the target was over 8 yards downfield, while also completing 5 of his 7 attempts beyond 10 yards.
Okay.
So
Jimmy had a good day.
okay, now we go on to the offensive lineman.
Okay.
Tom Compton had the game of an incredible game. He made some bad passing errors, but his run blocking was rated at 87.0 for a grade, and he notched a 94.3 run blocking grade, the second highest among all NFL tackles behind the Detroit Lions right tackle Penei Sewell.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
And of course, Trent Williams is Trent Williams.
Oh man, what a game that guy had. I mean, I saw him literally just going out there and treating people like they were 6-year-old boys and throwing them to the ground.
He allowed just 1 hurry and 46 pass blocking snaps, and he now has a grade for the season of 99.0.
Wow.
So
wow.
That's not bad.
Yeah, no, he's the best tackle in football. I mean, there's no question.
But how about that Tom Compton coming around? You saw him on Debo's touchdown. He was the guy that made that happen.
Oh, really? Tell me about that. How did he break?
He was the guy downfield, and he took his guy out and blocked his guy into the guy that was chasing Debo.
Oh, so he took 2 of them out.
Yeah. Downfield, way downfield.
Nice. Yeah, not 1 turnover. I'll take that. I mean, you know that says right there the offensive line is doing something right, and that they're using their running backs, because they didn't run for a lot of yards, but they ran for as many yards as they needed to.
That's right.
This whole game just felt like it was just really well organized, well coached, and again, I'll say, with the exception of the fourth quarter, that has me a little bit concerned. It was just a field general type of game. They just went in there and marched in and took it, and it was real nice to see. But I'm really worried about Robbie Gould. Gary, I think he's my age. I think it's time.
Yeah, it's time to draft a kicker.
Yeah, it's time to go 6th, 7th round, draft a couple kids and throw one of them out there and let them kick the ball.
Maybe even pick up an undrafted kicker.
Yeah. I mean, the only team I can think of that really places a lot on their kickers, and that's because their kickers have been such a big part of their game over the years. And I know we're getting off in the weeds here, but so the Raiders. I mean, Ray Guy was the number 1 pick, and Sebastian Janikowski was drafted in the first round, and
well, I'm happy with our punter.
First round. I am too. Doing a real good job. Did some real nice little touch punts there towards the end of the game. He made it harder on the Bengals.
I want to know, do you think that maybe he was doing something, putting some kind of English on those punts that made him drop it?
I don't know.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
It would be. I don't know how you do that, but those guys do, right? I don't get paid $20 million a year to kick a ball. They do.
Well, he grew up playing Australian rules football, so
yeah, he did. He's a big dude, and he's tough, and he makes tackles. He doesn't shy away from him. He goes and hunts for the guy with the ball. I like that.
Well, he's used to not wearing pads, so I mean,
right, and slamming into bodies, right? So it was a good game all the way around. After that game where we stood for 2021 team leaders, Jimmy, obviously, he's at 2,937 yards now. After this game, his season QBR is 53.7, but with a 6th seed, so he's doing something right. Mitchell still leads the team in rushing with 759, and Debo in receiving with over 1,000 yards now. So again, he's got to start being in that MVP conversation.
Wilson looked pretty good in this game too.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
Looked like he's getting that rust shaken off of him, and
yeah. He was really the only healthy guy out there, right?
Yeah.
So they had to put him out there a lot, and he had to block a lot too. So the backfield did what they needed to do. Team stance, real quick. Passing yards, 240 per game. We're 14th in the league. Rushing yards, 124 yards per game. That's 8th in the league. Points for is 25.3. We're 13th in the league, right in the middle of the pack. And points against, 23.2. We're 20th in the league. So,
well, in record, we're 6th in the NFC.
We certainly are. We're in great. We're in really good shape right now. A couple games ago, we were wondering, and a couple.
Well, some of you were.
Well, I'm I look at things. I don't know, through my old eyes. One shout out though has to go to Brandon Ayuk too. What a big game that guy had. He's the last 2 games, he really looks like he's finally breaking out and being the guy that they thought he was gonna be when they picked him up. So that was nice. And obviously the game-winning touchdown, that was a really nice play on his part. I mean, he really stretched out there and knew where that pylon was and got to it. So
we also knew how to stay in the air too, didn't he?
He did. I mean, that I've seen, a still photo of him, and he was flat, parallel to the ground with that nose going over, and his knees were not on the ground. It was clearly a touchdown. But boy,
kind of Superman-esque, huh?
It was just such a nice touch. I mean, I'm really starting to get excited about what we're seeing out of this guy. So anyway, well, Gary, you want to take us
this
out
is
of
one
here?
for the history books.
It is.
It's a good one for the history books.
It is. And you've got the history book there. So.
And so remember, without a past, you have no future.
That's right.
Go Niners.
Go Niners. Thanks.